So hi everyone, this is Joel Clear from Gyms Group HQ, and we're with Peter Viter, who is the regional franchisor for Gyms Mowing over in Canada. And he's also, what's prompted this as well is a big achievement, which you let Jim know about, which I think is very, very impressive, was the 300 Google reviews, which is the 305-star Google reviews on that listing, making you the most. Is it reviewed in North America or something like that you were saying?
Yeah, highest rated and most reviewed gardening and landscaping service provider in North America, to the best of our knowledge. That's what we've been told.
Which is very, 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 very impressive. It's a very, very good milestone. So we thought, why not let everyone in the Gyms family meet yourself, Peter, and talk about Canada. We don't hear enough about Canada, so we'd love to just sort of find out about yourself, especially the franchisees over there, all the services, and about what you do maybe differently over there, and maybe what you do similar to over here. For everyone in the Gyms family. So let's start with about yourself, Peter. How did you, what were you doing prior to Gyms?
All right. Well, I have my background is mainly corporate. I worked in finance for a while, worked on the operations side of the business for a while, up until my mid 40s, and was introduced to Gyms Mowing as a concept in 2012, 2013. Bought a franchise, a Gyms Mowing franchise in 2013, and operated that until about 2 years ago, when I became the regional franchisor for Gyms Mowing Canada.
And what prompted the change to go and do the franchise? Because you're obviously something completely unrelated, and you've just gone want to do this.
Yeah, like 90% of the franchisees that we have here in Canada, and I'm sure that we have across the world, is just getting to that point in life where you want to do your own thing. You want to be master of your own destiny. I was ready to. I'd been working and building businesses for the greatest part of my career, and I was looking to build my own business. And the opportunity for a Gyms Mowing franchise was introduced to me by a friend, a customer and a friend at the time. And it sounded interesting. It actually sounded too good to be true, to be honest with you. And I kind of disregarded the opportunity for a good 6-month period before just an opportune dinner where the franchisee sat next to me at dinner, and it was a mutual friend. The franchisee was a mutual friend, and we had a great conversation over that dinner. And I think within a month, I'd purchased the franchise.
Wow. And did you have an interest in gardening before? Was it something you just liked the sound of, or how did you?
Nope. You know what? I was looking for it. I was already in my mid 40s. I'd spent 15 years looking at Excel spreadsheets and doing emails.
Mm-hmm.
I was ready for a change. I love the idea of set your own hours, choose your own jobs, the whole lifestyle opportunity for it. I was ready to try. I was just at a period in my career where I was ready to try something new, and all the pieces of the puzzle fit into place. And I'm very seldom out in the field now today, 7 years later, but they're still my favorite days. I'm taking out new franchisees. We're doing training. We're going to see customers. We're doing quotes. I have 5-6 franchisees tagging along, and the days out in the field are still my favorite days in this business.
And what did you think about the logo itself? I don't know what do you think about the brand itself? Because it's sort of one of those things where did you know it was an Australian company when you sort of heard about it, or when you did your research, or?
I had no idea when I first heard about it.
Yeah.
I had to do a little bit of research after I'd had that dinner. And I had no idea, to be honest with you. In Canada, the other divisions are not present here yet, and so Gyms Mowing it operates in a bit of a vacuum here. So the brand recognition that exists in Australia is limited to mowing here. So when I did my due diligence and I did some research online, I found out that there was over 3,800 franchises worldwide. I started looking at the opportunity a lot more seriously.
And how long were you a franchisee for?
I started in October of 2013. I remember the day because it was my eldest son's birthday. So I started on October 1st, 2013, and never looked back. I loved it. We put our first. I was out in the field for the first year. We put our second team in play. Our second year, a third team the third year, a fourth team the fourth year. It was really a wonderful brand with wonderful systems that allowed us to grow as quickly as we wanted to, and it was just fantastic from the first day.
So it sounds like you had a pretty big business as a franchise owner. If you said, you put those couple of teams on, so you must have had a pretty big operation going before the regional franchise opportunity come up.
Mm-hmm. That was the goal. We wanted to do that. We wanted something really scalable. I love that about the system of how the regional franchisor generates leads, gives you support, shows you how to generate your own leads, shows you how to build the business. I was looking for that structure and those systems to be able to be successful as quickly as possible. So that was very exciting for us at the beginning. And we really wanted to have something that was scalable. So we were able to, we have so many unserviced leads in Canada that I basically started in one of the suburbs of Vancouver. And then as soon as we established a foothold in that suburb of Vancouver, we were able to take unserviced leads one suburb over. And then the following year, the suburb after that. And within 5 years, we were operating 5 teams in 5 suburbs. So and it was really fantastic to be able to do that. And it's just because the brand is, our reputation is so solid here, and the brand is so recognized here, at least in mowing, that we're able to turn away hundreds and hundreds of leads. I mean, it's a good problem to have. It's also a challenge, because the more often you say no to a customer, they eventually stop coming back. So we try to onboard as many franchisees as we can, as quickly as we can, to be able to limit the amount of unserviced leads that we have. But we really are in a very opportunity abundant market here in Canada.
And let's talk about your operation there real quickly, because a lot of franchisees get stuck sometimes in going from a sole trader to building a team, and you built a team really quickly and expanded it. So what tips do you have for franchise owners trying to build themselves beyond a one-man operation or one-woman operation?
Oh, that's a great question, Joel. Actually, that was the biggest challenge, and I think that now that I've gone through that challenge myself, and we're coaching new franchisees through that challenge today on a daily basis, I think the most important thing is it's what we call here the employee pipeline. So it's really a psychological shift. And what we were faced with, and what I was personally faced with, and now all the franchisees are faced with, is that if you look at the person that your next hire, that helper, the person that sits in the truck next to you, a lot of people hire that person as a key member of their team, and people are human. So if you put all of your hopes and aspirations for your business in one other person, that person is a human being with demands on their lives as well. People don't show up for work because they're sick, or their children are sick, or there's a multitude of reasons why a person won't show up for work. So if you and a lot of them are valid or legitimate. It's also difficult to find dependable employees, but even the most dependable employees cannot be there every day. So what we basically did was we created a system and a psychology of the employee pipeline. So you don't look at that person, that seat next to you, as a person. You look at it as a role. And what you do is you try to hire as many people as possible to try to fill that position. So you might hire 1 or 2 part-timers. You know that you have them on Tuesday, and you know that you have them on Thursday, or you know that they can step in as a student. They can step in when your helper isn't available, or if they're sick, or if their children are sick, or if anything comes up, any of life's challenges come up. So we teach our franchisees to think of that next person and every person after that as a role, as a team member, as a teammate, and to have as many people as possible be available to fill that role, especially people that can step in on very short notice, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have 2 or 3 part-timers, you have 1 employee, or you have 2 people to split the week, and you work with one from Monday to Thursday and then another from Friday and Saturday, and they're interchangeable, and you have a multitude of people that are able to play that role, I think that you'll be more successful at scaling your business. Because the second person will do that, and then you have 3 or 4 employees. It's much, much more challenging to run a business with 2 or 3 employees than it is with 20 or 30 or 300 or 400. The most challenging business scale to run is a small business. You'd think that the CEO with 1,000 employees is a difficult job, but when it comes to working with people, 250 people will never show up. It'll never happen that 250 people won't show up for work in a 1,000-person company. It'll never be an issue. But if you have 4 employees and one person doesn't show up, that's 25% of your workforce. Very, very challenging. So it's always good to have that psychology, that mentality of try to have as many people as possible on your team to be able to scale your business so that when life gets in the way, it doesn't.
It's a very good point. And where do you guys find your workers? What do you use, online ads, or what are you doing to find your base of network?
Well, I still operate my franchise myself on a limited basis. So we still have the franchise that we originally started in 2013. It's still operating to this day. It plays a different role. It's a much smaller business. We have it as basically a vehicle to train new franchisees now. But when we're hiring coaches and team leaders to be able to take the new franchisees out and to keep the business operational, we'll go to the internet. We have Craigslist here. I believe the Australian version of that is Gumtree. We have Indeed, which I'm sure that you guys use as well. We encourage the franchisees to write their own ads, to include photos, to have social events, to really present the opportunity as a great place to work. But the best place to get employees is exactly the best place to get customers. It's referrals. So if your employees are happy and they're out in their network and you're encouraging them or you're bonusing them to bring, like, your great employees, your solid employees, to bring on other people that they think would be great for the business, I think that that's the number one source for recruiting top talent.
And you've had a pretty big successful franchise. So why the decision, or why the change to take on the regional role? What prompted you to do that?
It was a little bit of a bunch of different factors came into play. The franchisor here in Canada was retiring about the time where my franchises had been going really, really well. I by nature, I love to teach. For a period of time in my life, I was playing that role quite heavily in the corporate environment. It's something I enjoy doing, and the opportunity to help others achieve their goals and reach independence. Independence was a huge factor for me. It was one of the main reasons why I bought the franchise. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to run my own business. I know that that's a dream that a lot of people have, and it's a difficult dream to achieve. Going out and starting a business is not easy. So to be able to have found, I feel very fortunate to not only have found a vehicle that allows me to be independent, but it also gives me the opportunity to help other people with the same dream become independent as well, which is very, very rewarding for me.
It's a great answer, and it's a very good answer. We hear a lot of the time, very similarly explained. Sorry, if that's a proper phrase, but it's a very similar thought, sentiment you have to other successful franchisors as well. They say exactly the same thing. I think for anyone watching as well, it's not just lip service. They all do mean it, the franchisors, when they do say it. So let's talk about now your franchise offering itself in Canada with the training, and how do you guys go about doing it? Maybe do you send them over to Australia still? Is it something, obviously now we can't, but is it an online thing, or how do you do your training?
Yeah, but prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we did send all of our franchisees to induction training. It's something that was implemented when I became the regional franchisor. So prior to that, none of the Canadian franchisees were going to Australia for induction training, for the 5-day classroom training. I was the first franchisee to actually go to Australia for induction training. I absolutely loved it. I found huge value in it. It was implemented across the board 2 years ago. Unfortunately, we can't do it anymore. We're doing it remotely. And because of the time change between Australia and Canada, our franchisees are watching it not in real time on video, which is not ideal, but still much better than not being part of the whole training community. And I look forward to hopefully being able to send the franchisees back to Australia as soon as possible, hopefully.
So what's the training offering for anyone who's watching in Canada for your, and they might, oh, I like the sound of this. What's the training involved? What do you put them through, Peter?
Okay, so they get whether it's in Australia in person or online training, they get that 1 week or the 5.5 day induction training in Australia, 3 days general training, and then 3 days mowing divisional specific training. Then they come back to Canada and they'll spend 2 weeks with us here in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver, what we call field training. Field training involves 5 days with one of my teams where they go out and just try to do as many of the different jobs as they possibly can. And then I'll send them out for 5 separate days with 5 franchisees that play a leadership role in our organization here in Canada. So they'll get different perspective, different views, they'll try different jobs. So by the time they've gone through training, they've had a week of induction training, classroom training. They've had a week just doing as many jobs as they possibly can with one of our teams here in my franchise. And then they'll spend an additional 5 days with 5 franchisees out in the field. So that's the ideal plan. We can't always, it's interchangeable. We might send them out with 1 or 2 franchisees depending on scheduling challenges and whatnot, but that's the ideal that we aim for. And then once they've gone through that initial training, then they go into a system of continuous and constant training and systems improvement. So we have throughout the slower periods of the year. So spring, we slow down the weekly schedule. And fall, we slow down the weekly schedule. We maybe go to bi-weekly, but we try to have as many Wednesday night training sessions, so they're done by Zoom, as we can. And we rotate through 10 main topics: quoting, understanding the software, customer service, dealing with complaints. Like every week we'll have a topic. And we'll do it in a group session. We found that the group training is really, really effective. That whole dynamic, for the same reason that training in Australia is so powerful, because there's so many different franchisees from different backgrounds in a room together. They're able to share ideas. They're able to bounce concepts off of each other. Group learning is very, very powerful, and we try to leverage it as much as we can here in Canada.
And I was going to do my next question was meetings, because a lot of this franchisors watching this, everyone has different ways they run their meetings, and you're just saying then you do a weekly Wednesday training or
that's training, because we're constantly onboarding new franchisees. So on Wednesdays we reserve for strictly training, and we have a topic every Wednesday for training, and then once we go through the 10-12 topics, we start them over again and they rotate through them, so a new franchisee can jump on at any time. And work through the 10 meetings. And then after that, they can attend whatever they feel like they need help with. Within that series of 10 or 12 meetings, there'll always be new meetings that we'll put into the schedule on an ad hoc basis as the need develops. So if somebody's having trouble scheduling or somebody's having another challenge or issue, we'll create a meeting for that. We'll schedule it on a Wednesday night because all the franchisees are used to that schedule of having the opportunity to do additional learning or improve their businesses on the Wednesday evening. Now, this doesn't include the quarterly meetings. So we have quarterly meetings that are not training based, where we go over what I call the state of the region. How many leads do we have coming in? How many franchisees have we onboarded? How many franchisees have we lost through attrition and other reasons? And we try to operate the Canadian region with as much transparency as possible. So we have quarterly meetings on top of the training meetings, where we just share information about how the region is being managed. And then every year we have an AGM as well. And then on top of that, we have all our social events. So we golf together and we have picnics together in the summer, and we try to get together as much as possible to build relationships between the franchisees, because and this is a question when people are considering a franchise with us, they ask about support, and their question is always focused on well, what's the regional support? Like, what's the support that's going to come from my franchisor? And as you can see, we do as much as we possibly can at the regional level to support and train the franchisees as best as we can. But a lot of the learning, if not more than half of it, is going to come from the other franchisees. So if there's a good dynamic and a good team level of teamwork between the franchisees, we have a closed Facebook group where all the franchisees communicate together. They can post pictures of quotes that they're struggling with. They can talk about suppliers. There's a ton of dialogue that happens on the Facebook group. There's a ton of dialogue that happens between franchisees that work in pods together. So we'll have 3 or 4 franchisees in a suburb. They'll work together in terms of, helping each other quote or doing jobs together if they don't have the manpower to complete a larger job together. And we try to create that dynamic as much as possible where the learning takes place as much from the top down as it does from franchisee to franchisee.
It's really good to hear that perspective from over there. And some from franchisors over here would be very interested in hearing. So just giving context to people watching more franchisors is how many franchisees do you have under your banner?
We're just shy of 50 now.
Yeah, 50. So that's a pretty comparable region to over here for most of the mowing franchisors who would have a similar sort of number. But it's really great to hear that as well. Now, a lot of people over here would be interested in finding out about your services. Is there any difference from New Zealand to Australia to Canada in the services that you guys offer? So maybe do you want to touch on what you offer as a mowing franchisees to customers over in Canada?
From my understanding of it, it's very, very similar. I know that there's different climates across Australia as there is in Canada. Here in Vancouver in the lower mainland of British Columbia, very, very similar to Melbourne. I lived in Melbourne for a year, and when I moved to Vancouver, I couldn't believe the similarities between Melbourne and Vancouver. Not being from either city, I'd lived in Melbourne for a year, having been from Montreal, and then eventually later in my career moved to Vancouver, and it was amazing to me how similar Vancouver was to Melbourne and how similar British Columbia was to Victoria. So climate is very similar. There are a little bit of differences. We get a little bit colder in the winter, so maybe to -2, -3 degrees centigrade, very little snow, but we don't get as hot in the summer. So we have a longer growing season. We can cut grass here for 10 months of the year, 9.5 to 10 months of the year in the lower mainland. And then the rest of the services are very similar. Vegetation, very similar to Victoria at least, which is the state I'm most familiar with. One of the services that we can offer in Canada that I don't believe is an option in Australia is snow removal and ice control. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that. But if there are franchisees that are in areas, I'm not that familiar with the climate in New Zealand. I know that there's some higher elevations there, but I don't know if they face that challenge or they have that opportunity to not face that challenge. It's really they have the opportunity to do that work there.
Yeah, so with the services itself, so you have a really good training program, which is some franchisors watching can really take note of that, is that it's really detailed in the 2 weeks. And I think that's really what you said before about the 5 different perspectives with the franchisee. So you have one Monday to Friday, you have a different franchisee. I think it's a really good things. I know a lot of franchisors might have 1 or 2 trainers that are their go-tos, or maybe a couple of more, but you've got 5 people you will put them on each day, which I thought was quite interesting. How did you develop that? Or how did you come up with that?
Actually, it's better than that. I'm really blessed here in Canada. I've got a good, I don't have a bad franchisee right now. I honestly don't have a bad franchisee, but I have a good 10 to 15 rock stars that are really able to and willing and once again, if you're born a teacher, you're born a trainer. It's just in you. So I've got a good 10 franchisees that I can pick from that I can send to do those 5 days with. So I rotate through them. Everybody brings a different perspective to the table. Everybody brings a different viewpoint, but they all share commonalities. They all huge on customer service, huge on quality of work, really dedicated to their employees. So, that the perspective is different, but the learning is the same. And that's what's important there. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
And I just think it's a really cool bit of support. Like I know because we had the traditional 6 days, the 6 days over here for the course, and then you have they'll go in the field. And they're obviously always supported, but I've never heard the different franchisee every day, and that's a really elongated period as well.
Oh, I think your question was how did I get to
How'd you come
doing?
up with that idea? Yeah, how'd you?
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I got a little bit sidetracked there.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's a great question as well. And you know what it was is I couldn't decide the guys that I wanted to send new franchisees out with. I couldn't decide on who to choose. They were all so good, and I got to know them on a personal level. They're franchisees that helped me be successful in my early days, and it was just really a question of who do I send this person out with for a week, and I couldn't decide. And at a certain point, I just came to the conclusion, well, if I can't decide, probably the answer is just to send them out with everybody. So that's kind of what we ended up doing.
Which
So
is
once again, I'm very lucky to have so many people that I'm able to send new franchisees out with.
Absolutely. It's a great reflection of the region. Now let's talk about the systems you guys use over there for work leads and stuff. Is it a little bit, maybe just give some insights to people. Is it, you don't go through the call center, or how does your operation work with job allocation and leads and all that sort of stuff? What have you got set up?
Identically to Australia, except we have a satellite call center here in Delta, BC. So we run our call center here in Delta, identical to our big brother call center in our big sister call center in Australia. Systems are identical. We allocate leads exactly the same way. We operate on FMS exactly the same way. So it basically, it's a satellite call center that operates identically to MCC in Australia.
And let's talk about your Google My Business. So you had 300 reviews on that one. So do you have one like big listing, or is it you have a listing for each franchisee, or what do you do for your setup?
Okay, so we had up until now. So all of our programs really are in their infancy. So we've only been running the region here. My team has for the last 2 years. So all of these programs that I'm describing to you, they're all works in progress. We're improving on them daily, monthly. So when we launched the Google My Business initiative, when we started in 2018, we had 50 franchises in the province, and we had 3 Google reviews with a 1.3 star rating. So we really did not have, we had a great reputation in real time, in reality, but our online presence was not great. And it's just because we never took it as an important part of our business. We were very abundant in leads, but the business environment was changing. You know this, we all know this. If you don't have a strong presence online, if it hasn't affected you already, it will. So we implemented an initiative across the region here to try to drive as many Google. I think beyond having a great website, Google My Business is probably the most powerful online tool to generate brand online right now. So we focused on Google My Business. We had contests for the franchisees to see who could drive in the most reviews. You're always going to have a group of really competitive guys in any group of people. So we offered prizes. We incentivized franchisees to go out and help us build our reputation online. And, I was hoping, I knew at that time, my competitor had about 40 or 45. My biggest competitor had 40 or 45 Google reviews. And in my mind, I had this dream of having 50 or 60. And then I put it in the hands of the franchisees, and it turned into a runaway train that delivered beyond even my wildest expectations. And we just recently hit 300. I have one franchisee, Gord Schaefer, I think that brought in over 70 Google on his own.
And what were the prizes you offered?
We offered gift cards. We offered dinners. I don't know if money was the big motivator. I think that it was really like, it appealed to the competitive nature. To people, the franchisees that we have here in Canada are phenomenally proud of the brand. I think that when they came to realize that our online presence was not strong and did not reflect the reality of the brand and the work that the people were doing here, I think that they took it personal. And I think that there was just some franchisees that had a point to prove and went out and proved it.
And you've got one main listing, or is it individual listings, or?
So we started with the one main listing.
Yep.
And we drove as much business as we could to that one main listing because we were able to have different service areas for that listing.
Yep.
But it's, as you know, it's not ideal. You want your Google My Business to be as local as possible. So what we started doing is we started branching out to the outlying areas. So if the Google My Business in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver, so think of it as Melbourne. If the Google My Business ranking is strong enough to get us ranked all across Melbourne. But as soon as we go out into the further suburbs, then we don't rank as well. So what we started doing now is we started suburb-based Google My Business listings where we'll have 3 or 4 franchisees that are strong and going out and getting the Google reviews. The region is creating Google My Business within that suburb. And then the 3 or 4 franchisees are able to drive reviews to that hub for their area. And the reason that we're doing it that way is because a Google My Business listing can be a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. If it's positive, it's really positive and it drives a ton of business. But if it's negative, it could kill a great franchisee that just doesn't get the online side of things. So if we have 3 or 4 franchises contributing to the same Google My listing, it takes about at least 15 or 20 good reviews to absorb a bad one. And you do your best. There's always going to be a bad one. Your competitors might leave you a bad review. You're always facing that challenge of trying to keep your listing as high as possible. And that's why a lot of the franchisees took the main listing so seriously. It was to protect our brand from maybe unscrupulous competitors that might leave a bad review and give us the ability to absorb that. But I mean, with 300 reviews, most of them, if not 99% of them are 5-star ratings.
And what's your franchisee's technique for asking customers? Is it something where they put it on their email list, if they email them a quote or something, it's a little leave me a review here, or how are they approaching it with customers?
Well, we created a link for all of the Google My Businesses. We created templates for all the franchisees. We gave them coaching and training. So that's one of the Wednesday night training sessions that we did. And when we used to do them in person, one of the training sessions that we did is specific to how to get Google reviews. Google My Business reviews are a major focal point of our business here in Canada. So we're hyper focused on it. We're constantly driving the franchisees, and the franchisees they get it now. They needed a little bit of coaching. They needed to understand what it was and why. Even more importantly, why it was so important. But once they understood why it was so important, the why of it, they really ran with the ball.
Now let's touch on some franchisees specifically in your area. Is there any stories or anything that you're really proud of in helping them grow a business, or can you think of any that come to mind? I'm sure there's a few.
You know what? Every single one for me is a great story. I mean, I think if I had to summarize it for you, everybody that's thinking of buying a franchise or making a really important life decision, life change, is in a scary place. And when there's that, whatever risk it is, even if it's a franchise, even if they have the most confidence in their ability, even if they have a trust in the brand, even if a friend, even in my case, when I bought my franchise, a friend brought me on. But even so, there's an element of fear. There's an element of, okay, well, I'm putting myself out on a limb here, and that affects your confidence. So anytime now that we've had franchisees that we've onboarded last year and in the spring, now we're midway through the season, to watch a franchisee go from fearful and challenged in terms of their confidence to turn into confident franchisees that are doing well. I'd love to pick one, but they're all really important to me, and I feel good about all of them. Like, I love seeing that. I love seeing somebody go from insecure is not the right term. I think it's just fearful because you're trying a new thing. to a confident business person who's doing well, I haven't found a better feeling than that in this business yet.
I think it's a really great thing you said there. And I see it sometimes at national office. You see people coming to new with initial training and you think, oh, how's this person going to go? They might not be that most confident at all. And you hear about them a year later or something, 2 years later, and they've got a really big business. And even the way they speak and present themselves, they might have been really, really quiet before, head down, not really saying much. And then they just completely change the way they are. And you're just like, geez, this is a different person. And it's quite, what you said is great. There's nothing like to give you confidence as a person by building a business or doing a business, because you have to meet different people all the time. You have to problem solve. You have to do new things, and this vehicle, as you said before, gives you all those challenges to help you really grow as a person. And it's really great. It's a really great point what you said there as well. So let's talk about now your franchise offering itself for anyone watching and thinking, great, I'm in Canada, like the sound of this Peter guy, like the sound of this Jim's Mowing's thing. What is the actual offering? So they go, I want to buy a franchise. What do you tell them? What's the next step?
In terms of the process to ownership, or in terms of what's the value proposition?
Yeah. So what's the value proposition for you? So obviously a lot of people, we have online questions when we do advertising for franchises. What do I get for my money? So what do I get for this? So maybe you want to tell people, what do I get when they invest in a Jim's Mowing business?
Yeah. I think basically, if I had to summarize it, it would be three main points. You get a phenomenal brand, you get systems, and you get support. So for us, those are the three pillars of what makes the value proposition of our franchise so powerful. It's, if you're stepping out and going out into your own business, and I get this, we advertise heavily online. We're always getting the comment, why would I buy? Well, like, why would I pay you to all I need is a pickup truck and a lawnmower. Like, why on earth would I pay you? Mm-hmm. And usually my answer is, okay, well, you've bought a pickup truck and a lawnmower. Now what? Like, now, how do you go out and how do you get customers? And I think that people that leave these comments have no idea how expensive it is to generate one customer at $3 or $4 per click. And then you have to think about, well, how many clicks do you need to convert into a customer to turn that into revenue? Mm. So we offer a fantastic brand, and brand equals trust. We've been operating in Canada since 1997. We have phenomenal brand recognition. We have north of 80 trailers driving around the city of Vancouver every day. People see us at almost every intersection. They see us on their street. They know that their neighbor trusts us. When I was faced with the dilemma of, do I really buy a Jim's Mowing franchise, or do I go out on my own? It seemed like a no-brainer. It seemed like the opportunity to if I was going to open a shoe company, to be able to use the Nike brand for a few $100s a month. Like, why would I make Peter running shoes when I can sell Nike running shoes for the brand recognition? The trust is fantastic. And then you have the systems. I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to figure anything out. We give you the map. If you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, D, E, you're going to be successful. And I cannot think of, sorry, my phone's going off here. I cannot think of one franchisee that has followed the system and has not done incredibly well.
That's a really key point for everyone who's watching and thinking. Everyone who follows the system does really, really well. And that's no word of a lie. And that's quite an interesting thing. The brand is obviously big here as well. So the brand for us, I'm the same as you. I've got the same opinion, is the brand equity or the brand IP value of Jim's Mowing in terms of the recognition, like 92% or whatever it is in Australia, for that flat fee every month, proportionate to actually how much, recognition this has, is really important. And that comment you said, we do said online, the same thing is, oh, don't do that. You can go and, buy your own equipment and then spend $5,000 on marketing and get all your clients and away you go. Well, if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. And it's definitely not the case. So the value of the franchise is there as well.
Mm-hmm. And statistically speaking, most small businesses, I mean, if you look at the statistics of Jim's Mowing or the Jim's group in general, how many franchisees survived their first year versus how many how many businesses actually survive their first year when they don't have any support, when they don't have a solid brand, when they don't have systems, when they don't have software. And I think you look at restaurants and you look at a lot of businesses, you know, that the failure rate is astronomical. And then you look at our success rate, and the percentages are flipped. Like, well, we have maybe a 10% loss of franchisees.
Right,
yeah. So when you have somebody saying, well, why would I possibly buy a franchise when I can just go out and buy a truck and a lawnmower by myself? It's like, because of success.
Exactly right. And it mitigates your risk, right? So any business is a risk. I'm not saying no gym's business is a full guarantee. You know, you've got to work hard and stuff, but it just mitigates your risk, and we know statistically you mitigate your risk that way as well. So let's talk about now some advice for franchisors. So you've got fellow Australian franchisors and NZ franchisors here. Do you have any tips or bits of wisdom you'd want to share beyond what you've already shared previously?
I don't know. I think I'm still a relative newbie to all of this. I don't know if I should. I'm still at the stage where I should be taking advice, not giving it. So yeah, I don't know what advice I would give.
Well, you've got a good training. Like your training setup is I think it's a little bit different with the regularly Wednesday. Like, how do you keep giving value on that Wednesday session? And maybe that's something good to touch about, because you've got those 10 topics which you rotate through, but where do you get your material from? Which I know a lot of franchisors might struggle sometimes to keep getting material for proactives or keep getting material for their meetings.
They basically come from questions from franchisees. So I make the assumption if one person is struggling with something, that chances are several are.
Okay.
We're all running the same race. We've all got the same problems. There's always, you know, there's always a bunch of people in their first year and a bunch of people in their second year and a bunch of people in their third year. They're running the same race. They have the same problems. So if somebody's asking, if you're getting the same question on a continual basis, that's a great topic for your training session. So we have people that have a huge amount of time, a huge struggle managing their time.
Yeah.
So we do training on block calendar, which is a time management tool. So anything that comes up as a challenge to a franchisee, maybe explore that a little bit further. And I think that you'll probably find that it's a challenge for most franchisees.
That's a good tip there as well. Yeah, that's a really good hint. I reckon that one there. And also the equipment. Let's maybe for some of the tech or the equipment heads over here, what equipment, what brands do you guys use over there?
We use the Honda commercial mowers. I've looked at some of the equipment that you guys have. It's completely different from the equipment that we have here. Yeah, okay. We use Still. Our startup equipment package has Still. I don't know if you guys have.
We have Still over here. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll use Still. Some of our franchisees started venturing out, trying the electric battery operated tools. We don't have very many. The feedback that I'm getting from the field is that it's expensive. You need a lot of batteries still. But I think that the technology's come a long way, and I think that it's probably going to come a lot further in the next couple of years.
I definitely think with the weight, especially, I know we had the ego stuff over here, just how light it is, you know, and some guys who get a lot of RSI, or women get RSI doing the hedging and stuff like that. We hope that, you know, maybe like a hybrid approach, you might have a hedger that's the electric or something where you're like holding it up all the time. That can maybe preserve the joints a bit better and stuff like that. What about the physical fitness of you guys? Something I've been touching on a little bit now is that the mowing and gardening can be quite physical on your body, and especially when you have the busy months, you want to get through as much as you can to make as much money as you can. Do you talk to you guys much about looking after themselves, or what do you do from that perspective?
We do. I think it's fantastic. It was one of the main reasons that there's not a lot of downside to buying a Jim's Mowing franchise. I mean, from every perspective, it's a positive. And one of the positives is that, you know, there is that physical side of the job that's going to keep you healthy, is going to keep you fit. Yeah, there's some challenges that we need to manage through. We encourage franchisees that may have physical limitations to work with the helper as quickly as possible so that they can do a big part of the heavy lifting. We love the fact that and we encourage our franchisees to work in teams of 2 so that they can leverage their equipment, leverage their time, increase their revenue substantially without adding a lot of costs. it reduces the physical impact of the business. But I think the physical side of the business is a huge positive and is a selling point as long as it's managed properly. I mean, one of the things that I tell new franchisees is don't take a lot of uniforms right out of the gate. Like we'll give you enough to get through the next 3 or 4 months, because you're probably gonna benefit greatly from we call it the gym's diet here. I think you guys do it. You call it the same thing over there, where you lose 20 or 30 pounds when you start a franchise. And I think that that's a great thing. It's a healthy thing. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. And then, a lot of our guys, we have to sort of, I know a lot of franchisors might tell them to sort of take a bit of a, spring. Everyone just wants to get through as much as work as they can, but it can definitely, they're really smashing the numbers in terms of clients they're doing. And then the physical toll can take a bit of a heat, which is why the lockdown in Victoria, I know everywhere else is still going, but like it gives the guys, I know it's definitely not ideal, but their chance of their bodies to sort of be repaired, and then in spring 13 hits, hopefully they can go back and be flat knacker as well. But let's now talk about, I had a quick question there. I wrote it down before I was going to ask you. Sorry, I've just got a list here as well. Retention. So that's something that is always a hot topic with franchisors and with Jim's Group in general. So how do you keep good franchisees, or what do you do? Do you do something maybe differently to over here, or how do you keep good people in your region?
Okay, well, that's a little bit of a tricky question for me to answer, because we're still relatively new at doing this. We've only been doing this for 2 years. Yep. We do have several franchisees that have been with the region for 15, 16. We have one franchisee that's been with us for 20 years. Wow. I think that a lot of that comes from within. Their team players, I think that they feel that they've learned a lot and gained a lot from being part of the brand. And I think that they're the type of people that now want to give back. So we create a dynamic and an environment where these people that they've been part of the brand and part of the family for so many years that they're encouraged to play that leadership role and take that interest in the success of the other franchisees and give them the opportunity to give back. A lot of, there's givers and there's takers in this world. And I think that a lot of the franchisees, if you appeal to their better nature, that they respond really, they respond really well to it.
And that's something I've talked with a couple of franchisors, and they say exactly the same thing to you, is making people in their region feel as though they're giving value and giving them a voice, and they're making them feel as though they're helping other franchisees in the area, builds the community, keeps them really feel a part of it, and hopefully hopefully everyone stays for 20 years. So you've just been a region for 2 years, which is a good time, because we've sort of been trying to do a bit more material with newer franchisors, because it's a bit hard to do. You do the basic franchisor training, then all of a sudden you're a franchisor, and then the first 12 months can be I don't know if it's going to be quite difficult, but it can be a lot of challenges that come up and stuff like that. So looking back on your first 12 months as a franchisor, is there any sort of things you would do differently, or is there any sort of tips you might give someone entering the regional franchisor business for the first time?
It is starting any business is challenging. I think that's just part of the nature of doing business. Starting a franchise, you need to be ready to face challenges. I think you need to be ready to be creative, to play different roles. For me, in the first 12 months, I think that if I could replay that first 12 months, I don't know how much I would do differently. I think I would. I was really, really lucky to have a couple of go-to people in the organization, in the Jim's Group, that I was able to go to and seek out advice on how to manage challenges. I probably, if I could do it over again, I might have done that more. Now that but you don't know who to call. You don't know who's really out there who has the availability of time. You don't want to impose. So if somebody's new and somebody's struggling, it's the same advice that I would give to, and struggling just because it's a natural part of business is when you're doing something new, you're going to struggle. I struggled greatly here in Canada, our first year. but I'm wiser and stronger for it. And it's, once again, it's a part of doing business. I would encourage exactly what I encourage my franchisees to do, which is please reach out as much as possible. Like, don't be shy to reach out, ask questions. Everybody has everybody else's telephone number. Please ask questions. Please call me anytime. I think that if a new franchisor is struggling, that they should reach out. Like, there's so much knowledge and so much experience within the gyms group that if you can just put yourself out there and ask for the help, I am absolutely certain you're going to get it. I certainly did. That was my experience.
I think what you said about asking for help, is a good thing. A lot of people don't ask for help sometimes, but asking for help and taking that help up, and away you go. So what are your plans for the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years? Because you've got 50 franchisees, which is great. I know you're pretty ambitious. So what's your plans for Gyms Mowing in Canada? What for the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'd like to, we understand the nature of the business here in terms that the more trailers and the more branding that we put on the road, the more that helps the existing franchisees and the new franchisees coming on. So there's an exponential increase in leads and in business and brand recognition every time we put a trailer on. So every time we put a new franchisee in business here, then the next best thing we can do is put another franchisee as close as possible to them, help build a brand. So my goal is to just keep building the brand, keep putting trailers out on the road, keep helping franchisees build their businesses. And as soon as we can leverage that to the next level, that's absolutely what we want to do. And it's the best insurance for all of the people that bought a franchise, and anybody that's thinking of coming into a franchise, is strength in numbers. So absolutely put as many franchises as we possibly can on the road within the next 12 months, 24 months, and 36 months.
Well, you've got a great business, Peter, and I thank you for doing this as well. It'd be great. It's hopefully great for everyone who's watching from NZ in Australia to put a face to Peter over in Canada, and obviously, and our franchisees. If anyone is watching there, say hello to you as well. And we'll hopefully get a Canadian franchisee on and do a similar interview. I think we're trying to do a bit more of these now to sort of interview franchisees and share it around. So if you've got any franchisees, Peter, you want to put forward, let me know, and I can arrange a time with them.
Great idea.
Yeah, it'd be great to learn about him. It'd be great to do a profile on a Canadian franchisee, and we can put it on YouTube and things like that. So really, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Peter. If there's any Australian franchisors who want to reach out to you, what's your, let's say, email address for them, or your NZ franchisors?
Yeah, anybody can reach me at, and I'd love to hear from them. peter.mainlandbc@gmail.com would be the best email to reach me at.
Fantastic. We'll put it on there as well on the bottom of the screen. And we hopefully can see you over here when travel restrictions permit. I know we have the gala every year, and hopefully we can't wait to see it's great you send the Canadian franchisees over. I think that's a really important thing, is to have them, or have the training, as you said, the training at Gyms HQ you cannot beat. Unfortunately we've got to use the online component for now, but that in-person training, as you know from experiencing yourself, you just can't beat it, can you?
Absolutely.
No worries. Thanks for that, Peter.
Thanks so much for having me, Joel. It was a pleasure.